Here and now with more. Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, I think that Bolton tape says everything we need to hear from John Bolton. Your reaction?
Look, I think, first of all, they're going to go down a total dead alley because the president's going to impose executive privilege. They would then have to go to court. So if they want to drag this out for another month or two, they have an opportunity to do it, but it will be pretty stupid. The country's already opposed to dragging it out. The country said it's over. David Axelrod, who was a very key person for Barack Obama, had a recent column and said he sat through a focus group of Democrats in Chicago, and it was 80 minutes before any of them mentioned the impeachment, at which point everybody in the group said, that's over, it's not going to happen, I don't want to talk about it. And Axelrod said, Democrats need to understand, this is not working. The Democrats ought to be voting to have no more witnesses. The Democrats, frankly, ought to vote to acquit and close it down tomorrow. Every day this goes on, the Democrats look smaller, more political, more destructive of America. And I think that there's no reason to have any more witnesses because there's no case. Just literally, there is no case here.
You know, Jay Sekulow said today, Mr. Speaker, in the Clinton impeachment proceeding, the witnesses that actually gave deposition testimony were witnesses that had either been interviewed by deposition in the House proceedings, grand jury proceedings, and it was specifically, you know, those same people. New witnesses were not being called. Why would any Republican in the Senate want to break that precedent?
Well, look, I don't think there's any real reason to have any new people come in. That violates the whole point. This is not an inquiry into what happened in Ukraine. This is an impeachment trial. And in an impeachment trial, there's a very simple question. Are the allegations rising to the level that you would deprive the American people of the person they elected as president? Now, I don't think a single one of the Republicans believes that Donald Trump is going to be convicted. So I think it is an absolute game for any of them to vote yes to have more witnesses, because the witnesses aren't going to change anything. This is not an impeachable offense. We have a very good way of solving it. It's called an election, as you pointed out. In 279 days, the real jury, the American people, will get to decide. My hunch is they're going to reelect Trump by an amazing margin. But what Schiff said the other day was very chilling. He said, we can't let this up to the voters, because he's such an arrogant elitist. He thinks he's more important than the American people. And that's what's at stake here. And I would hope that after they think about it, that not a single Republican will vote to have any more witnesses.
Schiff actually said today, not all quid pro quos are the same. Nobody's as bad as Joe, I'd add. But he said some are legitimate, corrupt. You don't need to be a mind reader. For one, you can ask John Bolton. I want to replay what Bolton said about the president's conversations with President Zelensky. He sounds just like the way Donald Trump described him, warm, cordial, and they were congratulatory, and he and the president spoken twice. And well, let me play this tape, because I think this is all we need to hear from John Bolton.
We'll be meeting President Zelensky. He and President Trump have already spoken twice. President called to congratulate President Zelensky on his election and then on his success in the parliamentary election. They were very warm and cordial calls. We're hoping that they'll be able to meet in Warsaw and have a few minutes together, because the success of Ukraine, maintaining its freedom, its system of representative government, a free market economy free of corruption, and dealing with the problems of the Donbass and the Crimea are high priorities here, obviously, but high priorities for the United States as well.
And he said, Mr. Speaker, free of corruption, and he saw nothing wrong with the call there. He was very clear, and the four facts never change. Maybe whatever Donald Trump said, they did nothing, they announced nothing. He didn't ask them to do anything because they told us he didn't ask for anything. Why are we even here?
Well, we shouldn't be here. That's the whole point. I think that there was a pretty good grounds for having the Senate literally reject the entire proposal the day it came across. And I thought the arrogance and the dishonesty of both Schiff and Nadler in lecturing the senators on what their duty was, which, by the way, is about as dumb a thing you can do as insult the jury, which is what they did. And I think that the result has been that they've even further alienated the Republican senators. And I think they have now weakened their position with a number of other Democrats. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a bipartisan majority, not just Republicans, but a number of Democrats vote that the president's not guilty. It's not impeachable.
I don't think it's in their best interest to do so. Mr. Speaker, as always, thank you for being with us.